Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of Killing Eve, Season 4, Episode 8, titled Hello, Losers, which greatest finale title ever. I'm willing to put it up there. This is the
Pretty
series
good.
finale. It is the end of the road. There is so much to get into here. I hope you guys are excited to dive into theories and possibilities because we definitely are.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about this finale because I think that there was a lot of this finale that was really satisfying. There were some good twists in this finale. There was some stuff that I was like, "Oh no." Like, spoiler alert, that Villanelle got killed. It hurt my heart. And I think that this is going to be, I think, a really divisive finale. That there are going to be some people that feel somewhat satisfied with it, and others that are kind of like, man, we went on this journey for so long for Eve and Villanelle to get together, and we had one episode of it, and then you killed Villanelle. I can see that there's going to be people who didn't like it. But this is a series finale, and that's the way they always go. Nobody's ever satisfied completely where everybody's happy.
That's going to be fun getting on, our helmets to dive into the comment section of this video because there
Oh
will be
boy.
there will be people who love it. There will be people who hate it. I
Yeah.
don't know if there's going to be a lot of people in between. I will say I am shockingly satisfied with this finale because I did not think after the last couple of episodes that, I didn't care for a lot of that, to be honest. I didn't really have that high expectation that this was going to deliver, and I actually feel like it really, really did.
All right, before we get too far into this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Even though Killing Eve is over,
Yeah.
we have other shows that are going to be coming up, like Handmaid's Tale. We don't have a premiere date for it yet, but it usually comes up in June. So we're hopeful that it's going to be back. Hit that subscribe button and, stick around for more of our coverage.
Yeah, we love Handmaid's Tale. That's gonna be
Oh, it's so
really that's
good.
gonna be really crazy with this coming season.
Okay, so let's start off with the Eve and Villanelle of it all. I think a lot of us, for most of the show, knew that these two characters, they've been drawn together. They love each other this season, especially. Villanelle, she's really got in touch with her feelings about her love and that she feels love. And I think we've seen that from Eve a lot more last season, but she struggled with it a lot this season too, where she knew she loved, but she needed to push it away, or she thought she needed to push it away, and she tried everything. Finally, these two characters have gotten together,
This I
and that was satisfying.
It was great. It was dare I say beautiful in
Yep,
some moments
it
where
was.
I love how they shot sort of the sequence where the two kissed and they just kind of like held on to that kiss while they were walking back to the trailer. It was just sort of this situation where once they finally had this thing that they've been dancing around like these past few years, they couldn't let it go. And there were just a lot of really interesting sort of creative decisions. I know there's going to be a lot of like Eve and Villanelle shippers out there who probably wanted a lot more than we actually got. And I get that. I understand that. But I feel really good with what we actually had, a physical representation of
Mhm.
something that I wasn't sure we were really ever going to get.
Yeah, I felt like we were going to get it. I think I just thought we were going to have it for more of the season and not just last episode, here you go. But what they did give us, I was really satisfied with. I thought Villanelle was extremely cute, giving her the kiss on the cheek. And then we got something a little more intimate with face touching and actual kissing. And we had Eve get into the camper that they stole, and then Villanelle just ran to the other side to be with her, them throwing chocolates in each other's mouths. Like, it was so much of what I had been wanting to see, that I feel that the payoff was very, very good.
It really was, and it was a situation where, I think we've talked about this before. There's this thin line sometimes between love and hate, and we saw earlier this season Eve put Villanelle in prison, and you would think in a way, okay, these two can never come back from that, but they have just sort of this acute understanding of each other where they can go through all these different degrees, and they finally just sort of land where the two of them are in this same sort of spot and they're living in the now and they're sort of embracing this mission. And I'm sure, internally they probably spent a moment or two thinking about what their future could hold. But I think in the end, they were just sort of settled on this idea of, okay, we want to take down the 12, and now we have an opportunity to really do it together. Let's embrace this and have a little fun along the way.
And speaking of the future, we're going to talk about that tarot reading for a second here, because we had them with this other couple that they stole the camper from. And I was kind of like, okay, where are you guys kind of going with this? And they had a 3-card reading. I'm not going to say that I know a lot about tarot or anything like that, but I know a little bit about the death card. So we ended up having where the future for Villanelle was sunshine, and she was going to have this sort of beautiful, better future for herself. We know how that ended up.
Yeah.
Then Eve was like, I only want the future card. What is it? And she got the death card, and they all had this look on their face like, oh no. And if you don't know what the death card means, which they didn't actually explain in this episode, it actually doesn't mean death. It doesn't mean that someone's going to die. It doesn't mean that Eve was going to die or that Villanelle was going to die. What it actually means is that there's big change coming in, and that the death is the death of something you've been doing, and you're going to have a huge shift and change in your life that is going to bring you into something brand new. Could that be bad? Sure. Could that be good? Sure. But it's really about change, which is what ended up happening to Eve at the end of this episode.
Yeah, it's been here from the very start of the show. This is Killing Eve, and this finale is about killing this version of Eve that has been here this whole time. She chased after Villanelle, she loved Villanelle, but in the end, Villanelle is now gone, and it's like I'm still wrestling a lot with my emotions losing Villanelle, because I one of my favorite TV characters. I think Jodie was just out of this world, but I also
10 out of 10. She's a 10 out of 10 character actress. Just it broke my heart to have her die. Her death scene was done to perfection.
Yeah.
They gave her a very fitting end if she was going to have to die.
The thing I sort of keep coming back to is that so much of this show is unfortunately about consequences, and Eve has spent much of this season, spiraling out, killing people impulsively, doing what she needs to do with this end game of, I gotta stop the 12. And I think for someone like Eve, who's done some of the things that she's done, there was never really a way that she was going to get everything she wanted at the end of this. And I think the writing for this finale really shows that. She did have an opportunity to have a little bit of happiness and joy with Villanelle, but then that's it. And, her punishment now is having to face this life without Villanelle, and we have no idea what that's going to look like.
No. As you said, the name of the show is Killing Eve. They have absolutely killed who she was. She's lost everything. And yeah, now we're going to talk a little bit about the killing of the 12, because originally throughout this season, I was kind of like, man, I went into this season hoping that we were going to see Villanelle and Eve going throughout the season, taking them out. I was like, man, I am buckled up for this ride. And as it was going on, I was like, oh, I buckled up for the wrong ride. This is not what's happening at all. Like, okay. And then when we were nearing the end of this, I was kind of feeling that I didn't want to just see them all get taken out at once, but that's because it was my own expectations. The more that I thought about it after what Carolyn said a couple episodes ago when Eve killed Lars, she said, they're just going to replace him with someone else. So if they did go along with what I had wanted, which was to see them take them out one by one, they would just keep popping up a new person in their spot. I was like, okay, they kind of do need to just take them all out at once, because then there's nobody left to fill those spots with other people. So when it did end up coming to that, I was like, okay, this ended up actually being quite satisfying.
I really loved it. Like, I love the Villanelle taking out everybody on the boat while this wedding ceremony is going on. I'm about to make a very obscure reference, you guys can let me know in the comments if you understand this. Villanelle was a little bit sort of like River Tam and Firefly and Serenity when it comes to like taking out this like large group of people, and a bit like
that is a deep pull.
It was a
man.
very deep pull, but I was just like, look at this, like, oh my gosh, Villanelle, especially when she's like coming out of it and she's just like taking out all these people, and she just kind of reverts still back to the Villanelle we know. It was such a cool scene. I loved everything that happened on this boat. You know, Eve sort of becoming like a de facto officiant, I thought was really, really funny.
Yeah, it was really well done, especially the back and forth with Villanelle, who is killing everybody and doing what she does best. And then we have Eve on the dance floor, finally just like letting go and having this happiness where she's like, I'm celebrating this other couple who's just been married. I've been part of this. You know, I'm with the person that I love. We're finally, you know, taking care of the 12 together. You can see that she's in that moment where she sees her future and it is bright.
And then the brightness dims. And I hate to sound like I'm like the Grim Reaper here, but it is just like right when everything is going great, it's not going great.
No, the Grim Reaper here is Carolyn. Okay, listen. So we have read nothing from, if there's any interviews out there with the writers, producers, creators, nobody. We have read nothing about the interpretation of this last scene where we saw them getting shot at. Villanelle got shot, got killed by an unknown sniper, but it was called in by Carolyn. So this is my interpretation of what this is. It is that Carolyn is in the 12 and she's been the head of the 12 the entire time. And that for her, what the whole plan of this is just that the actual 12 was getting compromised, and they've been getting compromised since the show started. And as they've been getting more and more and more compromised, I think she realized that, as she said, you take one out, you put another one in, that she needed the 12 to be taken out. She knew that Villanelle was going to do that job for her. And then she needed to get rid of Villanelle because she just knew too much.
I've told you this off air already, but like I am so jealous with the depth of this theory you came up with. This is so good. This is exactly what I think happened. Okay, I thought a little bit about it, and I was sort of like, okay, is it also possible that Carolyn was just sort of like a part of the 12 and not the leader, and so much of this show was about her sort of rising to that position and getting rid of all the rot within? Sure. But I just like your idea better because it just makes more sense.
The thing is the clues are there. So we know that Carolyn was one of the main people. She named the 12. She has been there since the beginning. Yes, she was in there as sort of a double agent, but she's been a double, triple, quadruple agent. She has betrayed everyone she has worked for. And it could be, for me, I think that she's done this because the thing that she is the most loyal to is the 12. I think that she became extremely involved in it at a very young age. I mean, some of this may come out if this young Carolyn spinoff actually comes to fruition. It was brought into news the other day that there is a young Carolyn spinoff in development. Will it come to fruition? Who knows? But it is in actual development. It's not a rumor anymore. That we could actually learn more about that part of it. And that's why they maybe left it kind of open to interpretation. But I think it's pretty clear that she had something to do with the 12. She's calling an assassin on her walkie-talkie being like, jolly good, thanks, you got that done for me. Who else is it? Like, it's gotta be that. The clues are there. She's been there since the beginning. You know, we even had that moment where we had Villanelle and Eve coming in at the same time that Pam and Carolyn are sitting where this 12 meeting is supposed to happen. And Carolyn is having this talk with Eve where she's basically like, people are predictable and I can figure out what people are going to do. All of a sudden, this message comes in that everything has been moved to this boat and only Eve gets it. And you see Carolyn's face where she looks down at Eve's phone, watching Eve get this message and be like, I have to leave, sort of thing. And then all of a sudden, Carolyn's like, you can do this. You know what? I'm going to back off. I'm good to back off. I'm like, oh, you're good to back off, are you? I wonder why.
Okay, this is the first thing I gotta say about interpretation on a lot of this, and this is gonna sound very harsh, and I understand that in advance. I don't really care what the showrunners come out and say. I don't care what the cast members come out and say, because if you're going to create a finale that's this ambiguous, we reserve the right as viewers to have whatever sort of take on that ending we want. It's like the ending of Lost. Regardless of what Damon Lindelof or whoever else may come out and say, we can believe what we want about Lost. And honestly, I don't even care if other people don't like the finale of Lost. I like the finale of Lost. That is what it is. I'm staying with all of that.
Me too.
Welcome to the party here with some of that. Like the other thing is that I'm excited about the idea of watching a young Carolyn spinoff. Like, this finale to me really like rose Carolyn up like 10 times in my books, now that I can like go back and rewatch all this and see like all these clues while I was hating on Carolyn this whole time. Like, but I kind of wish it was a spinoff of like after this show, because I actually want to watch Carolyn really rebuild the 12. Like, that to me is a lot more exciting and interesting.
Here's the thing that I am worried about. So obviously we all love Villanelle. Villanelle is one of the best top 10 TV characters of all time. She just is. We have Carolyn here, who lots of people didn't like. Yeah. I liked her. You didn't like her most of all the season. Of it, yes. Okay, so now we have a character that a lot of people didn't like, kill one of the best characters ever created on TV. How many people are going to go and watch the Carolyn spinoff besides me? I'm not sure.
I'll be there. And sort of, this is another really stupid way that I'm looking at this. It's kind of like, there's a player on a Survivor you really, really like, and you're rooting for them, but then like somebody you hate votes them off, but then you're like, oh, I really respect the move though. Like, I really respect the move that Carolyn made here. Like, regardless of my love for Villanelle, it doesn't change like how I feel about her. It just, Carolyn did a great thing that was great for her, and something that feels kind of similar to the end of The Departed for me for whatever reason. And that's the way the show ended. Like, this is the story.
So let's talk a little bit about that letter that Konstantin left her. So we never got to read the letter. We never got to hear what it said. Nothing like that. My interpretation of what was actually in the letter is that Konstantin told her the truth about Kenny.
I think there's a pretty good chance of that. I think they needed to give Konstantin some sort of like real closure after all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I know we saw him have his confession at the end of season 3, you know, where he was kind of like, I did this, it was an accident, it was whatever. But I think she knew in her heart, like Eve said, that she knew all the time who was really behind Kenny's death, and she was just using it as an excuse to continue staying in the game when she didn't have any real reason to, not knowing that Carolyn had a bigger reason and a bigger twist of why she was continuing on in this.
I think that letter helps to make at least a couple other things make sense this season, alongside obviously the idea that Carolyn was sort of ahead of the 12. Like, I do have to say that as good as I think this finale was, and I think it's really, really good, it doesn't fully wash away the problems of these past couple of episodes. I think this season still struggled from a lot of pacing issues. It struggled a lot from people sort of making assumptions, and I'm guessing they probably think, well, now that you guys see the finale, you understand how everything else worked, and I'm still not really fully there, to be honest.
No, I mean, there were, like I said, lots of good stuff this season. There really was. The pacing was off. It wasn't what I expected, which is fine. I went in with expectations, and that's what happens when you do that. So I'm fine to give myself my own disappointment on that, but that didn't take away from the good stuff that was there this season. The payoff at the end was good. Was the journey this season enough to get to the payoff? It could have been fuller, but just the same, the payoff was really good.
Well, thank you guys for being with us on this journey. We've already got our invisible helmets on to tackle whatever opinions are out there, but
Bring it on, guys. Let it out. Go into the comments. Tell us if you hated it, you loved it. There was stuff in the middle. Like, what did you feel about this reveal? Also, give us your theories about the Carolyn ending. Do you think she was the head of the 12? Do you think she was someone in the 12 moving her way up? She was cleaning house. She was doing it for MI6. She was just doing it for whatever reason. Let us know.
yeah, and hit that subscribe button to help us get closer to 60,000. And also, we don't want you to miss our coverage of The Handmaid's Tale. So
Yep.
thank you guys. We will see you here next time.